Hello and welcome to CTV News Across Canada for Friday, August 8th. We've got the top local stories from coast to coast, stories that affect you and the country. Thanks for joining us.
While some wonder whether or not Alberta should separate from Canada, the person in charge of Alberta elections wonders whether the wording of a proposed referendum question should even be allowed on a ballot. The province's chief electoral officer asked a judge to weigh in on whether or not it violates the Constitution.
This is nothing more or less than an attempt at delay, and from our perspective, it's an abusive process.
The question proposed by separatist group Alberta Prosperity Project: do you agree that the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province in Canada? The Premier and Justice Minister pushed back against the electoral officer, now saying Alberta's government believes that the proposal is not unconstitutional and therefore should be approved and permitted to proceed.
For a first time in the history of this province and probably in Canada, Premier and the Minister of Justice, who's a lawyer himself, have decided to direct the Elections Commissioner on what he should and should not do.
Well, we don't think that the province is lining up on our side with this matter. They're simply saying that there's legislation in place that's clearly intended to have Albertans vote on issues of public importance.
And that's why Luke Hasek has his own petition underway to ask whether Alberta should remain in Canada rather than separate.
The vast majority of us want nothing to do with it. We want to focus on what's good for Canada, what's good for Alberta, and frankly, what's good for Canada internationally.
While in Calgary, Canada's Conservative leader suggested focusing on the energy sector instead.
And what they're saying is the era of pay up and shut up has got to come to an end. Alberta deserves a better deal within Canada. And one of the ways we make that happen, one of the ways we unite our country, is to produce our resources.
Experts say the battle over the possible referendum questions is just a sample of the long, expensive process separation would involve.
There are exit routes out of Canada, but they would be painful, protracted, and unbelievably costly to the people of Alberta in ways that this province has to have a serious conversation about.
Alicia joins us now. So, Alicia, what's next?
Well, Ian, the judge will be back next week on Thursday to determine whether or not this question violates the Constitution. Also, the people behind the two possible questions need to gather enough signatures on their petitions.
You can hear at least a dozen gunshots ring out in this video taken by someone who appears to be inside a vehicle while a gunman fires from outside. Surrey police have confirmed this is now part of their investigation after being called back to Cap's Cafe for the second time in less than a month.
The people who are behind these incidents clearly have absolutely no regard for public safety.
The cafe is owned by popular South Asian actor and comedian Kapil Sharma. Police say the shots were fired at around 4:40 this morning. Staff members were inside, but nobody was hurt. Investigators say they also located what they believe to be a Molotov cocktail outside.
You don't know when they're going to do it or why. It'd be nice if they could figure out what's going on.
The cafe was targeted in a similar shooting on July 10th, just days after the business opened its doors in the 8400 block of 120 Street. Indian news outlets blame that shooting on the Sikh separatist movement, who denied any role to CTV. India-based media claim a member of the Lawrence Bishnoi gang has taken responsibility for Thursday's violence. A group BC's premier wants to declare a terrorist organization over alleged ties to extortion and other crimes. Close to 20 South Asian businesses in Surrey this year alone have been targets of extortion attempts. Police haven't ruled out any possible motives yet.
The clear fact behind this is that there are people who know who is behind this. We need those people to come forward before someone gets injured or killed.
Just days ago, the city's mayor and members of its police force attended the cafe to show their support.
I hope to talk to the Minister of Public Safety and to the Premier, in fact, because I think there needs to be a different kind of attention on Surrey.
The province's public safety critic says with more than 40 reported shootings in Surrey this year, the NDP need to step up.
This puts everybody at risk. So we need to not isolate our South Asian community. We need to embrace the South Asian community and recognize that this isn't isolated to a single group of people. This is something that affects all of us.
Police say they have spoken to Sharma, who they say is currently in India. They have not identified any suspects in either of these two incidents. They're asking anyone who saw anything or who may have dash cam footage to come forward. Nafisa.
Ben Nesbitt live in Surrey. Thank you, Ben.
3 weeks ago, Naylene Mayuse crashed into a cement barrier after losing control of her car. She later found out that she suffered a stroke while driving. But she wasn't treated for hours because she says Montreal police officers arrested her for impaired driving. I told them that I've never taken drugs, says Mayuse, but they arrested me anyway. I had a really hard time speaking and even getting out of the car. She was brought to a police station. They made me do a ton of tests. Obviously, my cooperation was not 100%. I was leaning more to my left. She also recalls officers threatening to press more charges if she didn't cooperate. Mayuse is a nurse, and so is her daughter Victoria, who was emotional speaking about that night. I'm a nurse, she says, so knowing what her diagnosis was and knowing the consequences that could have happened, it really stressed me out. Through the Centre for Research Action on Race Relations, Mayuse will be filing a complaint against the officers she encountered for racial profiling.
We hope that the Montreal Police will take this as a wake-up call about better training, better detection of medical emergencies, and how to avoid letting racial bias interfere with your ability to provide first aid.
Mayuse went to the emergency room as soon as she was released from police custody and says she ended up spending 9 days in the hospital. What I find with police is that when they see a black man or woman, they tend to look for any reason to arrest them. Mayuse says she feels lucky to be alive considering she spent hours in a police station when she should have been getting treatment for a stroke. In a statement to CTV News, the SPVM says it does not comment on police interventions, adding that anyone who has an issue can always file a complaint. Jack Richardson, CTV News.
For the second straight day, firefighters and air crews battled a wildfire in a rural area north of Miramashi.
So we had air tankers on it last night and again early this morning. There's several bulldozers making fire guard around it, and there's approximately 20 people on it today. We had a few more there yesterday.
The fire began near Oldfield Road and Route 8 around 3 p.m. Wednesday. As of 10 o'clock last night, the fire was out of control and around 35 hectares in size. But there was better news today. As of early this afternoon, it was around 22 hectares in size.
We won't call it contained until we have a hose line entirely around it, and that should happen in the next little bit, but we're just not quite there.
There are 2 homes in the vicinity of the fire, but officials say they were never in any real danger. But for those who do live nearby, there was obvious concern.
Yes, it's still far away from home, but the fire can still jump the road, can still jump it still has to go far. We still have to jump to Highway 8, but it can still do it. Seen and done out west up Manitoba in the big fires.
The fire did burn through a hydro line in a wooded area that, like most of the province, is in dire need of rain.
Right now, everything's dry. I have it side by side. I've been in the wood, in and out. Everything's too dry. No one should be in the woods. It's just way too dry, way too easy to spark something, way too easy to cause a fire.
The cause of the fire is under investigation. The province sent a news release this afternoon asking New Brunswickers to take precautions over the coming days to help reduce the risk of wildfires. And of course, a province-wide burn ban remains in effect. Jesse.
That's Derek Haggett reporting just outside Miramashi tonight.
In the early hours of Tuesday morning, 4 masked people make their way to a Brandt County business. Jerry cans and glass bottles in hand, they set fire to the front of the building.
We're pretty sure that it was like a Molotov cocktail attempt.
Today, the smell of gasoline still lingers outside, the soot staining walls, windows, and walkways. As police search for suspects, one employee says the incident has left him shaken.
It was scary. It was a shock.
CTV News is not identifying the employee due to safety concerns.
I've never seen something like this before, so It was definitely a shocker.
CTV News spoke to the building's landlord off camera. He says this type of behavior is rare for the area, and he isn't sure why the business was targeted.
It could be intentional. It could be they're trying to break in to steal something. We're not sure at all.
Police pointing to possible signs in the surveillance videos.
There was some communication made by them. We could see on video surveillance that they were communicating with somebody, and it seemed like they were trying to make sure that this was the correct building.
The fire didn't spread and no injuries were reported. The business says it's amping up security measures.
We're going to have security over here, during off business hours, no matter what. But at the same time, we are definitely upgrading our security surveillance system too.
Police are urging anyone with information regarding the 4 suspects or video footage from early Tuesday morning between 1:30 and 3 o'clock to come forward. Tony?
Okay, CTV's Alexandra Hollick live with our top story tonight. Alexandra, thank you.
The playground at Jack Ravenscroft Park going up in flames Wednesday night.
It was just a normal day, and then we come by, and the playground I used to play at when I was really young is just on fire.
Victoria Payne says she was driving home when she came across the fire.
We could see 3 separate blazes, one on the seesaw, one on the slide, and one under the gazebo.
4 separate fires.
4, I thought it was 3.
4 separate fires were set at the popular playground, burning kids' toys, a seesaw, and climbing wall. Ottawa police have deemed the fire suspicious.
Especially the one on the seesaw. It was like really high, and at one point there was like an exploding sound, and the flames just jumped even bigger.
The park is a favorite for many local families and daycares.
I had tears in my eyes. It was devastating. Like it's our park. It's our second home. To see that people would destroy it like that, it's awful.
Residents say they are thankful more of the park was not destroyed due to the dryness of the area.
There was probably about 6 ride-on toys for the kids to ride around on the park that I'm assuming was here that are now gone too.
This is not the first issue the community has had with vandalism at the park.
We found all kinds of things in the sand over the years, and this table in the gazebo was even set on fire years ago. I don't know why anybody would do that.
The city estimates damage to the playground at $10,000. No injuries were reported from the fire last night. The Ottawa Police Arson Unit is investigating and is asking anyone with information to come forward. Stefan.
CTV's Dylan Dyson reporting live for us tonight. Thank you, Dylan.
The courtroom was heavy with grief as family of the 2 teenage victims came to see this case through. 29-year-old Kai Randall's family was also there. He waved to his mother before pleading guilty to second-degree murder and aggravated assault. Randall had been common-law partners with Kayla Chason for 3 years, living together in the Riverside neighborhood in St. Albert. He was a father figure to Chason's daughter and niece, who also lived with them. An agreed statement of fact says Randall was high on cocaine on the July evening last year when he attacked the teenage girls with a kitchen knife while his partner was at work. He stabbed the older girl, 17-year-old Jaden Chason, 21 times, then attacked 13-year-old Brooklyn Janes in her bedroom. 2 days later, Jaden died in hospital. Wearing a T-shirt with her daughter Jaden's picture on it, Nicole Chason took several deep breaths before reading her victim impact statement into the record. "I will spend more years missing you than I got to spend with you," she told the court. "I will grow older as you stay frozen in time."
It's not going to go away, but being able to speak today and say how this has all affected me, that helped to lift some of that weight off my chest.
After sitting through testimony from people who once considered Randall family, he stood and told the court through tears, "I'm sorry for all the pain all this has caused. I didn't want any of this." Randall's lawyer says he's genuinely remorseful for what happened, exemplified by his guilty plea. The defense also argues Randall was experiencing drug-induced psychosis when he stabbed the girls, adding there was zero motive for this crime. Kai Randall has been sentenced to life in prison with no parole for 12 years. Jeremy Thompson, CTV News, Edmonton.
It was a long ride to Regina for these La Loche evacuees.
Pretty rough. Long ways from Regina, especially the bad hip.
sitting in the same spot for 12 hours. The situation was further complicated when 2 of 4 buses were held back over confusion about whether heavy smoke was sufficient grounds for the evacuation.
So the public safety agency was the support unit and did turn and hold the buses back and ask people to debark until discussions with community leadership on whether they wish to continue. So they did. Wish to continue.
In the scramble to leave, some arrived in Regina without a change of clothing. They say there are no laundry facilities, forcing people to wash clothing in bathroom sinks. Others say they arrived without any cash and have yet to see the $500 in expense money recently promised by the government. The only thing is we have no money. They left. They just picked us off the street and took us out. I didn't bring my wallet, nothing. Other needs are being well met. Hotel accommodations provided by government are good, and buses have been lined up for day excursions.
We're going to go to the Bell Barn in Indian Head, head to La Brette, and then to maybe Echo Park. Just something to do to entertain them, I guess, today.
The government says it is providing food, accommodations, and laundry services for La Loche evacuees. Those requiring additional financial assistance can apply through an app to have their needs assessed. As for the $500 promised, the government says it is intended for the recovery process of returning home and will be distributed by either the SPSA or the local community. Wayne Mantica, CTV News, Regina.
Maria Martinez is having a much better work experience this summer compared to last summer when she ended up in a position at a fast food restaurant.
It's a revolving door of like, okay, if I don't like you, I can fire you and then we can get someone else.
This year, she's taking part in a Black student leadership program and is employed 35 hours a week at the neighborhood group, where she supports youth and takes part in workshops and excursions.
It's so meaningful being able to be placed with BSSLP this summer, as I feel it definitely enriches my ability to connect with various mentors, as well as be able to have an understanding of my potential career paths.
Martinez is among a large group of youth, officials, and Toronto organizations pushing all levels of government to create 10,000 meaningful jobs with the city by next summer. The goal to tackle the crisis of youth summer unemployment and youth unemployment, which youth advocate Stephen Mensah says is connected to youth crime and violence.
Young people made it loud and clear, just this catch-22 of, hey, I need experience to get a job, but I can't get a job without experience, and so I'm left stuck. And we know this reality is even more dire for young people who are Black, Indigenous, equity deserving, young people living in Toronto community housing.
The call for jobs comes with the release of the Toronto Youth Employment Postcard Report, essentially a survey which asked young people what they need to better succeed.
Hey, I want an opportunity. I need a job to not just help me so I can buy things for myself, but to help my mom pay rent, but to help with caregiving responsibilities and other necessities like transportation and housing. And so young people were very vulnerable and real as to the importance of a job for them.
Scarborough Councillor Parthy Candavel says the city has only approved exploring up to 10,000 jobs for 2026.
As we head into the fall budget cycle, we're hopeful, but we need a commitment from City Council that, and from the leadership of the mayor, that we will be incorporating it into the budget.
He says a program could include city jobs and subsidies to the private sector so companies are incentivized to bring on summer youth. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
This street sign has been posted in an industrial area of southeast London for over 2 decades. Max Bros Drive sits near Bros Canada, one of several industries along the roadway. However, Max Bros himself has a dark past, according to the human rights organization Friends of Simon Wiesenthal Center. The FSWC cites Bros' record with the Nazi regime.
This man was happy to have Jewish and other slaves working in his plant to produce armaments for a genocidal war effort.
On its website, the Bros company contends its founder was determined to be a passive follower of the regime and not a Nazi activist. The centre vehemently disagrees, calling him a major supporter of German National Socialism. They further contend the City of London should have known better than to have a street named after Max Bros in the first place. The centre says the sign is fundamentally incompatible with Canadian values and a stain on the nation's good name. It's demanding the mayor's office and city officials take action. In a letter sent to the mayor dated July 31st, the FSWC calls for Max Bros Drive to be renamed. The organization acknowledges it had been unaware of the street until recently.
Certainly we were surprised to find out that there was a street in London named after a Nazi.
CTV News reached out to the mayor's office for comment. We've been told he had just become aware of the letter and is preparing to review it. The centre hopes that happens quickly.
This is on the property of a government and of a nation that fought the Nazis at great expense, at great cost, and we find this unacceptable.
In London, Sean Irvin, CTV News.
As a funnel cloud formed over Dugald, Manitoba Wednesday evening, Joy Hibbert was getting multiple emergency alerts in Winnipeg.
Both on my personal phone, my work phone, and then I was at home, so I was seeing them on the TV as well.
But this confused her because as far as she could tell, Winnipeg wasn't under any tornado watches or warnings at the time.
I can only imagine, some people who are maybe vulnerable or less tech savvy having the ability to check their area. So I think it probably was confusing for most people.
Like Hibbert, many Winnipeggers received emergency alerts Wednesday, like this one that popped up on an iPhone in downtown. Tornado in this mobile coverage area. The alert reads, take immediate cover in a basement or an interior room if weather threat approaches.
I was literally on my way home from work. And driving past City of Winnipeg, obviously I'm getting these alerts on my phone with the tornado warnings.
For Brian Penner, the emergency alert that popped up on his phone was very real.
Probably about a mile ahead of me, there was debris spinning as it crossed the road.
Crawford Luke with Environment Canada says these alerts are sent based on cell tower locations.
Not only are all the cell phone towers in that area triggered when a tornado warning goes out, but any other cell tower around that area that has any part of its coverage in that community.
Meaning users in Winnipeg could get these alerts meant for areas outside the city. Luke says Environment Canada is working to modernize its warning dissemination in the coming years.
That'll, hopefully help further cut back the amount of sort of perceived false alarms that are going out.
But until then, Hibbert worries the next time these alerts go out, some may not take it seriously.
I think people may have a tendency to kind of brush it off a little bit.
Now, Luke says if you do receive an emergency alert, you should take it seriously, check your surroundings, and take action if needed.
All right, Dan, do we know if any tornadoes were actually confirmed yesterday?
Environment Canada says so far no tornadoes have been confirmed, just lots of reports of funnel clouds, but the investigation into the storm yesterday is still ongoing.
All right, thanks for this, Stanton.
84-year-old convicted art fraudster Jim White left the Newmarket courthouse as he awaits his sentence. Do you have anything else to say about today? It's
nice and sunny.
In June, White pleaded guilty to producing forged documents, possession and trafficking of more than 500 pieces of fake art mimicking the works of Norval Morceau. Some pieces sold for tens of thousands of dollars. Morceau, often called the Picasso of the North, is widely recognized as the grandfather of contemporary Indigenous art in Canada. Morceau died in 2007. For years, his estate has fought forgeries that flooded the art world market. In court Thursday, the Crown asked Justice Michelle First to sentence White to 2 years of house arrest. While the defense agreed with a 2-year sentence, they argued for 1/3 of that sentence to be on house arrest with the remainder on curfew, citing White's age and health problems as factors. White will turn 85 years old in April and has multiple lingering health issues pertaining to his knees and lungs. 4 victim impact statements were read in the courtroom Thursday from victims, each outlining a feeling of being taken advantage of. And a representative of Morceau's estate also addressed the court, citing the financial impact. 2 victims have also come forward seeking restitution totaling $10,000. Justice First asked White if he had anything to say to the court. He declined. And White's lawyers also declined to comment on the sentencing hearing today. 2 others co-accused pleaded guilty last year and were sentenced to 5 years in prison. White will be back in Newmarket on August 29th for the judge's sentencing. Meanwhile, White's co-accused David Paul Bremner is also scheduled for his sentencing later this month. Luke Simard, CTV News, Newmarket.